Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to this week's episode of Lifestyle Pirates, number 69, with me, Big J, and him, Adriano.
Hello.
Now, let's just give this man a round of applause for his corporate attire this evening. You've obviously had a very, very long day.
Yeah, thank you very much. I just come straight from the office, straight into it.
As the Italians say, a deliciano.
Oh, mate, that was fluent. I loved it.
So this episode, we're joined by a very good friend of mine, Shane Brennan from Try Softer. Mate, how are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Yeah, less stressful
in.
day than Adriano, so and I like to keep them that way.
Yeah.
Mate, we're going to talk about
sounds lovely.
We're going to talk about meditation, so hopefully you've not had too much of a stressful day.
No.
He hasn't had one.
Yeah.
I have one.
Yeah, mate, you're going to be a working case study.
I'm stressed.
So we've obviously met through some community groups in Sydney. I've recently done your online course, which was phenomenal. I don't want to steal too much of your thunder on that, but one of my biggest takeouts was all of my stereotypes of meditation and I guess my concerns and the whole cliche that I thought meditation was totally removed. I'm going to disappoint you a little bit because I don't do it as frequently as I like, but it has become a part of my daily ritual. So, and I want to talk about that in terms of how do I increase that frequency.
What were your stereotypes and stigmas towards it?
I just thought it was a load of crap.
Really?
Didn't give it I think for me, I didn't give it the time, the knowledge, and I didn't seek to understand. I wasn't curious about it enough. And maybe that was stage of life. Maybe that was just what was going on in my world. But I guess I've become a little bit more curious about it now and given it the time. And maybe actually meeting that right person that can educate me, right? Yeah. Rather than reading all the stuff online. So there you go. There's my confession, Shane. Mm-hmm. But reading your story, you didn't come about meditation through being stressed. It was actually more through kind of illness, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And like I was almost forced to do it because I got a painful autoimmune disease, and that really caused me not to be able to move my right leg, and I got what's called a frozen rib cage, so it was very hard to breathe. And so I was kind of, apart from dragging myself to work each day, I was mostly bedridden. I'd come home in the evening and just lie down, exhausted. When you're fighting pain each day, you're very fatigued. And so meditation was kind of the last thing. Like I went from, training, running, cycling. I'd just done a bronze medallion, the life-saving course. So I was pretty good fitness levels. And then I was went from 26 to 96 overnight. And so one of the few things I could do was lie there and listen to stuff. And when you get bored of your music and stuff and you're not in a good space to listen to that music anymore, meditation was something I found. And a specific practice called Yoga Nidra, where you are lying down flat and it doesn't ask much of you. It just asks you to set an intention to listen. So it's very soft, it's very easy. And just going through that process started to re-energize me, give me a good sleep. Because one of the big things is when your sleep goes to shit, everything else starts to unravel around you. So getting back good quality sleep, feeling more emotionally regulated the next day, that's what really made me buy into this practice and love it and come to want to teach it to everyone else.
So what was the sort of gateway? You mentioned that obviously you're going through some illness, but what taught you that practice? How did you find out that particular yoga was the meditation that you did was the one that for you? Did someone come up to you and train you, or did you just seek it out on the internet?
Yeah, I'd actually had exposure to the yoga we know as going into the studio, doing those postures, and then at the end you lie in Shavasana, and the teacher usually talks through a few elements of relaxation, the breath, the body, the mind, and Yoga Nidra is just an extension of that. You're lying down in that position. And so when I was coming to explore, relaxation practices, that actually came up on YouTube. And I started listening to them. They're 30, 45 minutes. I'd just lie there and I'd be transformed over that time. I'd really go into a deep state of relaxation, and I'd come out of it and I'd want to be able to feed myself in the evening. I'd want to be able to go downstairs and, hang out with the others. So I felt the benefits straight away, and they were powerful ones.
So does this particular yoga need narration?
Yeah, so it is guided. You're guided by a person through all these different stages. And the key thing is sleep. A nidra roughly translates as sleep. And what it's trying to do is bring you to that point just before you fall into a deeper sleep. So it's very relaxing, but you're still aware and like your consciousness is there. And so that's a very restorative time to be in. And it tries to keep you there for as long as possible.
Yeah, it sounds like I need to sign up.
Your sleep is horrible.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, an average 3 hours a night, maybe.
Wow.
I was up at
Even Shane was like,
Yeah.
what?
I was up at 3 o'clock this morning, went to the gym,
Yeah.
came back, I was already doing work at 4:15.
Yeah, look, I think poor sleep quality, poor duration of sleep is the first red flag that your body, your mind, your nervous system is struggling with the pace of your life. And it's waving that red flag at you to go, I need you to take notice of other aspects of your life, to slow down in certain areas. And so, I'd love to encourage you to explore that.
See,
That was a very passive aggressive way of saying we need to talk.
I know, right? No, because I've sort of had troubles with sleep my whole life.
Yeah.
I've always been a horrible sleeper. I don't get much sleep, and then when I do sleep, I'm up every 20 minutes or something like that. I don't really get into a very nice deep sleep until I have to go to work. Then it's like bang. It's like, oh, now you can sleep. It's like my sink is completely out. It's a plumbing joke there. But yeah, so it's so full disclosure, I did actually do a little bit of meditation myself, guided meditation through, I think it's a mindful app or something like that, the orange circle app.
Oh, Headspace.
That's it, Headspace. Yeah. And I loved it. But see, the thing is, I only feel comfortable doing it if I'm by myself. So if Vanessa was home or something like that, I just didn't really have enough time to get into that mode, into that zone where I could actually relax, because I come home, if I was cooking or something like that for Vanessa when she comes home, because she gets home a little bit later than I do, then I don't really have that moment where I can just disconnect from everything. So how do you find the time to do that sort of stuff? Do you just sort of have your own, I'm not sure if you live with someone, but do you have your own sort of area that you can go to where you can do your own thing and just sort of decompress, or how do you find time for that sort of stuff?
Well, when I started, I was living in a share house, and it was a full-on share house. We like to get amongst it, and so I had to start pretty much just going up to my room, locking the door. But outside of that, I was using my commute, my trip to the city as a perfect time just to close my eyes. The earphones were in, and I was taken to these places through those practices. And then a confidence developed that this was really transformative for me. I was operating better, I was thinking better, I was doing better at my job. And then that bred the confidence that I could leave my phone on the desk, walk up to Botanic Gardens, sit down for 20 minutes and go, this is better for everyone that I'm here, and then come back to the office. And, I was managing 7 people at that time, and I was, the complexity and the psychology of managing people can really play with you as well, especially when you're new to it. And I just found that gave me the patience. I wasn't irritable anymore. I was thinking better, like really strategically, but also very compassionately. And so those were powerful changes.
Big time. It's true what you say about managing multiple people, because you have to wear so many different hats and different sort of personalities and read different people. And then when you got boomers above you, Gen Zs below you, everything that you taught from above is a completely different language to the people that you have to portray these lessons to below. So you're stuck being this body computer that has to speak multiple languages, but you're in this position where you don't really know how to speak to anyone because you're completely isolated from all of these people. And oh my God. Hang on, I rant, but yeah. So yeah, managing people can be definitely quite a challenging thing, and it pulls your mind from side to side. So maybe I do need to find that little 20-minute space in the garden.
I think you need about an hour.
But that's the stopgap you want, so that stuff isn't building all day, because it kind of comes in, a little adrenaline spike here, a little cortisol spike there, and then suddenly your shoulders are up around your ear, your jaw is tight, you're getting a little bit of a headache, and then you start to be more irritable. And so when I get people to pepper meditation, even shorter practices throughout their day, they're like, that's that little release valve, and then they're not carrying those tensions home to their family and not carrying it into their sleep at night.
It's good.
You spoke earlier about quality sleep. In your words, what defines quality sleep? Are we talking number of hours? What's quality sleep?
Yeah, I think a good place to start would be, the quality quantity debate that happens in nearly everything. Like, best guidance is, people talk about between 6 and 8 hours is usually a good length of time. But if you're waking up having, the sweats at 3 a.m. or, not being able to sleep between 2 and 4, there's a lot of emotional stuff going on if you're waking up in particular at those times. So
is that real? So is that actually true? If you're waking up in between 3 and 4, that's a state that you're in. So it's more of an is that real?
Yeah, there's a bit of emotional
I tried
processing.
To ask a question there. Did you get that?
Yeah, because it happened to you last night. There's a lot of emotional processing that happens during the different sleep stages, and so it seems to be a common one. When you're stressed between 2 and 4, you're more likely to come out of deeper sleep because that emotional processing is happening.
So let's go through these sleep stages. And I've got my pen in hand.
Yeah, that's a tough one, because there's maybe... I wouldn't be talking about exact levels.
This is only being recorded on video and on things, so we're fine.
Yeah.
It's funny because I actually wake up at that time, and that's the time I go to the gym.
Yeah, and I reckon you should find some techniques to get you back to sleep.
I would, but Vanessa's next to me.
Yeah. Oh, they're quiet. They're pretty silent. Yeah.
So let's say for example, so I try to go to bed between 9:30, 10 every night, right? I'm up at 5, but I try and go to bed 9:30, 10.
Yeah.
If I have a good night's sleep, what's those sleep cycles? But I am finding that I'm waking up. The other night, 9:30 I went because I was broken. And I was up. Oh, hey? No. It was a weeknight. Alcohol free. And I think I woke up at midnight and I was like, I'm not looking at my watch. My phone is outside of my room, so I don't look at my phone. And if I look at my watch, then I know what time it is. Then I get all stressed and anxious, right? So I'm not looking at my watch. And I was like, right. And I just tossed and turned. It felt like ever. And then I just didn't really fall back to sleep. And then you have little broken 20 minutes. And that was all the way until the alarm went off until 5. And then I got more stressed and more anxious because I was like, this must be getting closer. Hear the birds, all that kind of stuff. And it was just a horrible night's sleep.
So, and did you carry that attitude to your sleep through the next day? Was there a bit of regret or resentment?
There was, because what happened was I then didn't go to the gym first thing because I was knackered. And then, so for me, I have this thing called your mood follows your action. So if I go to the gym in the morning, then it builds me up for the day, right? But because I was very tired, then didn't go, I didn't get that kind of morning endorphin piece. And then you're wondering, why couldn't I sleep last night like this? All that. Because, again, I lose my phone at 8:30. So I lose it for an hour before I go to sleep now. So then I try and do a bit of a social detox following your your
brilliant.
course.
Yeah.
But again, I was like, what the hell is just so much?
Yeah. Look, sometimes it can even be a good thing. I've had those wake-ups in the morning and the ideas have been brimming in my mind. It's been beautiful stuff I wanted to get out of bed and write down. And so, I'd never just put it down to one thing, but I always ask people who are waking up a lot at those times, if it's becoming a pattern, you want to start checking your stress levels. And the other element is I get people first thing in the morning, regardless of how they sleep, to adopt the mantra, I'm rested and I'm ready. Because a lot of us carry that sleep anxiety into the day, and that's another emotional drain that's dragging us down. And then we get more and more anxious about, I better get a good night's sleep tonight. And the thing is, you can only set up the conditions to sleep well. You can't force yourself to sleep well.
Definitely not.
And the only reason the nervous system lets you sleep is when you're safe. It's there for your survival. So if you've got a load of stuff coming in heavy, it's not going to want you to sleep. It might let you get rid of some physical exhaustion, but it wants you alert. It wants you ready.
Yeah. So as I mentioned before, I've been in trouble sleeper my whole life. So maybe one month or once every 2 months, I'll go through 2 or 3 nights of complete insomnia. So I had one last week, and I got up and I did a 40K walk. So I was in bed because I know the trigger. As soon as I jump in bed, I know what happens. I'm like, I'm not going to sleep. I said, Venair, I'm going. So I just jumped up and went for a 40K walk.
Wow.
And then the next night, I jumped into bed, went to go sleep.
Shane, do you want a notepad?
Oh, this is a case study. I think we need a panel of experts here just to analyse you.
So the next night, I went to bed.
Love you, buddy.
And I've also started to realise this as well. I can go into bed, if I know I'm not going to sleep, I say to myself, even though I'm not going to sleep, the fact that I'm just lying down in bed, I'm going to be all right the next day. And then the next day I'm fine. And I haven't slept the whole night.
Yeah.
So yeah, what you mentioned before about as long as you're well and rested, you don't carry it into the day. If I just convince myself that, look, even though I'm not going to fall asleep tonight, I know I'm not going to fall asleep. If I just stay up, if I just sort of relax and sort of meditates, kind of, I'm fine the next day. So
yeah. Yeah, look, it still works out differently for different people, but no one's going to recommend your sleep pattern to anyone else. Like, not a chance.
No.
So, yeah.
So you've mentioned stress quite a few times. So what is stress? Why do we stress out?
Well, stress is any time we don't feel we can meet the demands that are placed on us, and they come from a lot of different factors. So most of the stresses we experience now in, these safe houses in big cities are what are called like socially sourced fears. You're worried about your earnings, your promotions, your relationship status. It's all those things about society. They even start, when you're doing exams as a kid. Impress my parents, impress the teacher, the peer group, whatever it is. And so it kind of carries on from then. And then we fall under bosses we want to impress to get promoted. And when we don't feel, we can, if we're uncertain around what it takes to get there, we'll feel a lot of stress. And sadly for us modern humans is we're not facing the actual physiological stress anymore, the
real ones.
Chance of death, but the same system is at play for both, because the subconscious mind is so powerful, it doesn't really distinguish between real or imagined. And so you're imagining, not being able to pay your rent, but you're imagining that as I'm gonna be kicked out onto the street, I'm gonna have nowhere to live. You're imagining all these worst case scenarios are coming up that make you feel as if there's a train coming at you.
Yeah, that's very true. Because we don't really see, in our lucky lives, we don't really have those stresses of the fear of death and everything. So yeah, that's fascinating that our brain actually does that. Unbelievable.
Isn't that why they say, we overthink a lot, and a lot of people, a lot of podcasts I listen to, they just sit there and go, well, it's that control you can control. Because a lot of the thoughts, your mind will go down the deepest, darkest rabbit holes, and most of it actually will never happen anyway.
Worst case scenario.
And I think the important thing to remember with that is your brain, it isn't designed for you to be happy or achieve your goals or face all those challenges. It cares primarily about your survival. All right, so it's always going to go into a mode of efficiency.
Yeah.
What's the least I can do to survive? Okay, but then we've been fed these dreams, these aspirations and stuff that we want to follow. So we have to work against this survival mode to be able to transcend that. And I think this is where these practices are very powerful, is all your innate reactions are to, no, I'll stay in bed, it's cozy here, let's not do anything. But then you have this dream of, let's say it's running a marathon. But, you've to balance between that survival mode and that ability to perform, because your body can run a marathon, just your mind is telling you every morning, stay in bed, we'll start that tomorrow, because it only wants that efficiency.
And does that kind of date back to, obviously, kind of caveman mentality where life was pretty simple? Yeah.
And you're doing the things you need to do to survive. Yeah. And now we have time to sit around and think of all these things that we put out there that are just kind of, I have a safe life, I've loads of money, I want to do that. Yeah. It's kind of, so that's where we've moved as modern humans.
Wow, okay, fair play.
It's a very interesting take on it as well.
Yeah.
But it's Makes you realise.
Well, what are you thinking?
Well, you know me, I don't think much. No.
You're like me.
No, it's a very interesting take on just how life really is now, and it's fascinating to hear. Like, we don't have to have all of those fears, so we just make up so much shit in our head that really is completely irrelevant. And it's I don't know, it sort of makes you check yourself as well. And I think that's, you know, when people have kids or something like that, they realise what a worry is, or when you have to look after a child or something like that, you have to fight for that child's survival. And then you usually see in their professional lives, they might change a bit as well, because what they thought were stresses were not really stresses anymore to these people. So just hearing that is sort of like, it puts it back into sync for me as well.
I think a lot of it is in that example, your priorities also change as well.
Yeah.
So it's not about...
But it's another life that is now dependent on you, you know.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's the same sort of thing, but someone else that can't fend for themselves.
Yeah.
So you're literally you're helping that thing stay alive.
Well, I just celebrated the birthday of my 2-year-old on Wednesday there. So that's my first 2 years of fatherhood, and meditation has been crucial to get me, from, that hyper vigilance of seeing your kid and everything could be dangerous around them, to go calm. They have to make mistakes. They have to fall over. You can't be just butting in all the time and stopping them exploring the environment. And then with the sleep deprivation, I went back to my yoga nidra every day at lunchtime, 45 minutes on my bed. So even if I'd been up all night, I knew I was still getting a lot of that restorative stuff happening at a cellular level in my body. And that gave me the confidence that missing a night's sleep wasn't a big deal. And then you get more and more used to it, because a lot of people, just like I said before, keep carrying that anxiety with their sleep. I'm not sleeping. I can't perform at my job anymore. And that just starts wearing them down even further.
So how does one get into meditation? What's the easiest? What's the gateway?
So most people come across it by, they've heard about it and then they go onto YouTube or something, or get an app. And, there's been a lot of great success stories about that. But the thing I see happening is a lot of people will go and they'll use it for a week or two, download that app, and then there's no continuity after that.
Guilty.
Yeah, and look, probably some of the only great habits we have, like brushing our teeth and stuff, were really forced into us at a young age when we were absorbing lots of information. So it's very hard to change adults unless there's a real need. I see it in people who have, because I work with a lot of people who have chronic pain, they've kind of hit the wall, they're at rock bottom, and they go, I'll try anything. They've been passed around doctors, specialists, all this stuff. So they're the kind of people who usually find it most accessible because their back's against the wall. But the people who start to see stress as like, oh, it's actually having real physical symptoms in my body. I'm getting sick all the time. I finish work, I go on 2 weeks holiday. The first 5 days, I'm still just in work mode, everything going through my head. I finally start to relax for a couple of days, and then I'm anxious about going back. So my 2 week holiday had 2 weeks of relaxation in it, not what your nervous system wants. It wants those 2 weeks. So to access meditation, though, it usually takes a realization. Then you start searching on the internet, and you'll come across, the various levels of stuff that are available on the internet. A lot of people will download apps, and there's a lot of great content. But the reason I mention about the longevity of them is a lot of your psychological defenses come up when you're meditating. And apps aren't always able to guide you through those. Books aren't always. And that's why I went and, learned to meditate from a teacher, because I'd been dabbling in all these practices, but never got what I felt was the full benefit. And a teacher can bring you through those phases in a lot more comprehensive manner. You can handle the self-doubt that's coming out. Think more critically about your realizations and how it's reframing how you think about life. And, that's priceless in terms of what you can work through in a couple of weeks or months, rather than, the dabbling and then maybe going, this isn't working for me, but not asking the question, why isn't it working for you?
That was my experience. Yeah. So we did an exercise and we're on the Zoom screen. And I must say, actually, your ability to create a very safe, vulnerable and intimate space online, I thought was first class. It was phenomenal.
Thank you.
I don't know how you did that. That was incredible. But we did this exercise, and I just dissolved. Like, absolutely, my mate's streaming. It was really interesting.
What?
Yeah, big time. Big time. It was really interesting exercise. And so if I was just on an app, you're asking yourself an inordinate amount of questions there, going, well, why am I feeling this? What's going on? And then we had to kind of share, because it had very similar impacts on other people. And then you have to share, what you're thinking and what you're feeling. And
That sounds extremely interesting.
Yeah, but Shane was also, to his point, able to kind of guide me through how the what and the why. Maybe not the how, but the what and the why. But you wouldn't have got that just if you were...
No, definitely not. So I've done quite a bit with, I say quite a bit, I don't know, maybe about 20 sort of ones on apps and stuff like that. And one of the things that I've struggled with was focusing, because my mind would drift. Sometimes they try and pull you back in, but my mind, like, I've got ADD almost maybe ADHD, I don't know. Anyway, I have struggle with attention. So what was I talking about? No. No, so sometimes I'll be listening and then something will click and then bang, fucking off on a tangent. My brain's over there. Completely forgot what I was doing. And then I was like, try and pull me back in, and then I'm like, oh, fuck, where am I up to? And, I try and focus on what they're saying and, isolating parts of your body and this and that. And I just can't focus on it. So, yeah, to actually maybe be guided through it, and then someone... I don't know what your course does, so I don't know if you slap you and hey, dickhead, for focus.
You can't slap on Zoom, mate.
Yeah.
Watch me.
Well, what's interesting is, a lot of people hear the word focus and they go into a work mode about it. They're like, well, just like I focus on reading a document, I'm going to focus on meditation. I'm going to focus on my finger, this finger, that palm. And they're bringing a stress to that focus. Yeah. The level of focus you need for meditation is really soft and gentle. Yeah. It's like watching people walk by a cafe. It's that level of focus. And so especially a lot of high-performing people I work with hear focus and concentration and they go into a stress mode. I'm trying to teach them that down the other end of the spectrum of cognitive effort, you can still focus, but very softly, very lightly. And when you focus like that, you don't find meditation as draining. And what meditation is doing is trying to bring your focus, that soft focus, to more areas that are calming. So we give you different things. And then what happens to the mind after a while, it's attracted to calmer spaces. So you can be in your meditation and instead of going, oh, I need to bring my awareness back to my breath, your awareness just moves back to your breath, because you've trained the mind to do that. And then the breath is happening in the present moment. It's not happening in your past or your future with all the crap that can be there. It's just now, and life's a lot simpler in that moment. And so that's what you're trying to train the brain to become attracted to.
That is so alien for me to hear. So much so, it stressed me out that I was that I couldn't have that sort of soft focus.
Yeah.
But you and I are very similar, where we like to be busy.
Idle hands kills me.
We find it very hard to stop and pause and things like that. You like to be busy, so do I. If we've got 5 minutes free in the day, we'll fill it, right?
For sure.
And that's where, like, you could almost argue where the whole Google Calendar thing is just not good for us, because now everything is an hour meeting, everything's by an hour, right?
That's why I started waking up earlier, because I had no more time left.
Exactly. So, and it's kind of, I guess one thing I've tried to do is chunk out some time to do nothing. So literally there'll be space in my calendar.
But what is your nothing?
So that's what I'm learning to find, and it could be sitting. So I'll go in the morning. I'll go down. I'll go to the gym. I'll go boxing, and I'll come back, and then I do 10 minutes just sitting down there, with some tunes on that Martin Roth mix that I sent you, and then I'll just do box breathing for 10 minutes.
What's box breathing?
Shane, what's box breathing? Yeah,
so box breathing is a practice to increase your CO2 tolerance. So the practice is, it's a 4-second inhale, a pause for 4 seconds, an exhale for 4 seconds, and another pause. Okay, and when you start going through that process, everything slows down, and because you're taking long pauses, we are very sensitive to carbon dioxide, and it often causes us to breathe faster. And when you do this, you're training your nervous system that you can tolerate more CO2. So your breathing slows down even outside the practice itself. You've a lot of awareness of the breath, and you've awareness of some discomfort arising. So it really gets you into what's going on in mind and body. You're very connected with the breath. And that's why it's a great practice. And if you can increase your CO2 tolerance, you start breathing less frequently outside, and that just helps balance your nervous system more. So, because a lot of our default breathing styles are all influenced by stress. We're breathing shallow into the chest. We might even be breathing through the mouth. We might be ceasing breathing during different times of the day. So people are breathing really poorly, and a practice like box breathing brings a lot of awareness to that and slows things down.
Yeah, I find myself sometimes forgetting to breathe.
Yeah, but you're not the only one. They're calling it screen or email apnea now, where people are just like opening an email. The psychological process that goes on shuts down the breathing system because they're so involved in the stress of what they're doing. And then they gasp like 7-8 seconds later.
Yeah, that happens to me.
Yeah.
I'll be reading something and I just stop breathing.
Yeah, that's your credit card bill. That's when the wine arrives.
That's my wine.
Yeah.
But that's a good little practice, though. That's certainly helped me. And if you can do it, so what I try and do, again, on the back of talking to Shane, is you start at 4 seconds, and then I go to 5, and then go to 6. And I'm 6. I'm probably not as comfortable, but again, it makes you focus on, I guess, the moment, because you're counting all the time. And then if you've got some nice tunes in the background, it's amazing how quickly 10 minutes can go. And that's like 10 minutes for me, right? So it's a really interesting little exercise.
Those little breaks, those 10 minutes, that's me making the music.
Yeah.
But that breathing is essentially a style of meditation. And I often use, people who aren't open-minded enough about meditation, I often use breathing as their gateway drug, because it's very real, it's happening. When they start slowing down their breath, they do feel like very physical changes, mental changes. And so you can buy into it a lot quicker, whereas maybe with some styles of meditation, you're questioning whether it's working a bit more. But you want to influence your nervous system quickly. Breath control is the way to go.
Yeah. I'll be honest, I loved when I did the meditation, and the ones that actually I really got something out of it. And yeah, I'm very open to it, because it's always something that I've always recommended for other people to do as well, but sort of never really did it properly myself. So yeah, it's something I've always wanted to do a bit better, because when I did do it, I felt myself relaxed a lot more, and even sleeping better as well. So yeah, maybe it's time, eh, John?
Maybe it's time.
Some box breathing, baby.
Absolutely. Mate, you spoke about, and I kind of confessed my kind of stereotypes and stigma. What are some of the things that you hear, that kind of reluctance to give it a try?
I think the biggest thing is fear around being alone with your thoughts. A lot of people go, that scares the shit out of me. I can't even approach, coming into a room and just shutting down. Everyone's tendency is to pacify their mind, take out their phone, absorb information. We've moved so far away from understanding what genuine relaxation is. And so that's the big one. And then that's why I'll often give an initial relaxation of a breathing practice. So they still feel like they're doing something, but it's getting them into a calmer place where they are more open-minded, or their mind has slowed down enough to observe a meditation process or be guided through meditation. After that, a lot of people just think this is bullshit. They call it straight away. But, you slow down your exhale, you lengthen your exhale, your heart rate slows down. You move through your body and even invite areas to soften. You feel tension, your shoulders soften, your jaw softens, all these things. So the nervous system works in feedback loops. So you can start, the stress that caused your tension to rise your shoulders, you can tell someone, okay, relax your shoulders. So that's the other end of the feedback loop. So there's very real quick changes. And then the bodies of research that are coming out now, because we've better access to FRMIs. There's more buy-in. There's more big meditation companies.
FRMI.
MRI scan, and then the FRMI scan does the moving colors.
Right. Okay.
I think it stands for frequency. Or something.
Okay. Okay. All right. Mate, when I was looking at your website, I've never had to look at a thesaurus at the same time when reading your website. Oh. We spoke about ant control or ANT control. What's that?
Yeah, it's just a nice abbreviation for automatic negative thoughts. And they're the things that just, why do you always default to the worst case scenario? Well, why
survival.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that mode we mentioned earlier. We're primed for survival. And so if we want to be a slave to just that survival instinct, then we just keep plodding along through life, being startled by everything, agitated by everything, or we can try transcend that and use meditation or these mindfulness or relaxation practices as a way to go, no, I'm not here in fear all the time. I'm here to look for opportunities. I'm here to enjoy my life. I'm find ways to navigate it. And, that's when you decide, okay, well, I just can't keep getting into my car and picturing a car crash, or getting on a plane. And these aren't protecting me. These are overprotective. I don't need these anymore. And so what I get people to do during the course is there's 1 week where I'm like, I want you to write down those ants. Like, what comes into your mind when you see a person ringing your phone? You think, oh, it must be bad news. That's an ant. And it's just it's a nice term that people go, oh, I have to keep an eye on my ants. And we all know what happens when ants get out of control. So, it keeps you, it's a play. We want to make these things as fun as possible, because there's too much serious stuff going on. We want to be able to have a laugh with these things. And so, if it's not appealing to your inner child, I'm really going to struggle for you to get buy-in to practice it, because I want it to be like brushing your teeth. And you learned that at a young age when everything was fun. So you're trying to create that environment again.
I got to work on my ants.
Oh, we all do.
Everybody has them, mate. Everybody has them.
Yeah, definitely.
But what happens after you meditate for, quite frequently, is the ants become less regular, but you gloss over them a lot quicker. You don't even pay attention to them anymore. And that's known as non-judgmental awareness. The ant arises, you let it dissolve in just the same way without bringing any emotional attachment to it.
Fuck, that's a talent.
Yeah.
We spoke... say again?
You're good at that, aren't you, sometimes?
What?
Just letting, negative thoughts just liquidate.
Look, I've got better, but, I mean...
you overthink though, so
I do overthink, but I'm also quite the optimist. Which is probably counterintuitive.
Yeah.
So well, I think optimism was my saving grace.
Yeah.
Like I do think you want a lot of hope and optimism, but a bit too much of it, doesn't make you dial into the reality of how to navigate the here and now. And so a lot of it is about balance points or right sizing. Because a lot of people I know, I hope I'll do a meditation course in 6 months. All right?
Action fakers.
Yeah, 6 months comes around, I'm still too busy.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, you knew you were busy back then.
Yeah.
You're busy now. When's the busyness going to change?
Yeah, I mean, people that take action...
Is that a dig at me? No.
It will be. I mean, look, you could argue that people that don't take action, I mean, that's just an excuse. I think we get that in every
action fakers.
We get that in every walk of life. I mean, timing's a big thing for me. I trust the timing sometimes. Like as I said at the start, I've always been curious. I mean, we had Angie Zimmerman on a couple of years ago, and she did it, and I actually did it after that. But it was maybe the medium wasn't good for me because it was just an app. Yeah. And so I think the timing of life sometimes helps make that decision. But yeah, I let most things go down by the waterside, mate.
I think I let negative thoughts come into my head very freely because, I don't know, I'm an analytical sort of guy, and my whole career has been based off fixing problems. So for me, issues are exciting. You know, I look at problems or bad things as something that I can solve. So I sort of try, when something happens to me or something's around, I try and look at it as, all right, what can fuck up here and how can I make it better? I revert to that straight away. I don't know, maybe I'm just projecting, but yeah, that's what what I sort of look at negative things.
Yeah, but I recognize that a lot of people's jobs are about, you know, understanding risk, analyzing risk, trying to avoid certain elements of it. But if you stay in that risk mode all the time, you don't see the opportunities. Like, you don't get to smell the flowers. And if that's your job, if you can, you know, do that in whatever 10 hours a day, that's fine. But that other time, you don't want to be in that mode all the time, because then you just see life as an inherently dangerous system, because you're always trying to fix stuff. When can you just enjoy stuff? And that's why I think these reflective and meditative practices should be a way to, you know, calm that approach down as a stopgap after you leave work. So you're in a different mindset just to enjoy and appreciate and be grateful for the things around you, not always fixing and problem solving.
That's very true what you just said there. And I'll use an example for myself, right? So that's what you just said, it just struck a chord with me. So I don't sort of switch off from my work mode. And I found when I actually went on holidays, so I used to go on a holiday for about 5 weeks a year, right? Or 4 or 5 weeks, long holiday overseas to Europe. The reason why it's in Europe is because it's an opposite time zone and people can't contact me at work. And when they do, then they kind of realize that they can't, and then they stop contacting me. So then it takes about 2 weeks. After 2 weeks, I feel myself coming back. So it takes 2 weeks of decompression away from work, and then I stop thinking that way. And then it's just like, you know, as you mentioned, smell the flowers. So I think I need to get better at disconnecting from when I leave work.
What's Adriano like in that week 3?
Oh, he's a riot.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah. It's good fun. He's a prick now, but but he's mate, a lot more chill. Shoulders are a lot lower like yours, not up high like mine right now.
Cool, yeah.
So actually, was that a bit of a visualization technique that you just did there, just to kind of, what's he like, to help him realize actually, how do I get to week 3 quicker?
Yeah,
I think that resonates with a lot of people, especially business owners. You know, especially people that are in C-suites or, you know, high management roles. It does take a long time to unwind. You know, it does take a long time for that to uncoil. If you are putting food on the table for your family, or if you are running a listed business, or you're running a big corporate, or you manage a big team, because that expectation was always there to work the extra hours, to put the time in, you know, to answer your email out of hours. And I think we're kind of coming back from that now, which is awesome. I'll turn your phone off.
But what I wanted him to, you know, notice is that the calm exists inside all of us. It's just under all the layers of shit that our life has been piling onto us. And so we can get back to it. And meditation is that 20 minutes where you get back to it. And so then you're reminded that underneath all this, I am a calm person. And that gives you, breeds a lot of confidence into maintaining more calm in your life.
We spoke about box breathing earlier. What are some of the other forms or types of meditation?
Yeah, so like a wide range of breathing practices, obviously. Then there'd be what's quite popular is mantra-based meditation, where your teacher gives you a mantra and that becomes your anchor. So all meditations center around an anchor. And that style of meditation will be you just keep repeating your mantra, your mind wanders, then you bring it back to the mantra. And then, like I mentioned before, your mind just starts naturally going towards the mantra, and you find more and more calm through that. And the mantra can be, or the anchor can be mantra, breath. You know, then there's body scans, which are quite effective. They're a mindfulness technique where you're just noticing the sensations that are actually happening right now in your body. So that brings you into that present moment awareness. That's quite beneficial as well. After that, you know, I mentioned yoga nidra, which is very accessible because you lie down and it's very passive. then you'd be going towards more styles of meditation to create maybe a bit of insight, where I might guide you through some questions you need to ask yourself, you know, and they're the ones that tend to hit a nerve. You reflect on maybe your self-talk. How's it been? Like, are you an asshole to yourself? Are you very critical and judgmental all the time? You know, because that's going to cause a lot of tension in the body and the mind. And then there's, just different ways of, repackaging meditation to suit, you know, empathy and compassion. There's a beautiful style of meditation called metta, where you imagine your loved ones and you're sending and receiving love. So that's very powerful, especially for people who feel isolated. I used it a lot during the pandemic because a lot of my friends are expats. So to bridge that gap when you're told, oh, you can't fly home anymore, which was, you know, really struck a chord with a lot of people. Exactly. As like, I'm angry now, I'm agitated, you know, that freedom was taken away from me. So the list is endless, and it keeps growing. People are fine-tuning meditations for so many different purposes now.
This might be a dumb question.
Okay.
That's my disclaimer. Yeah. What's the difference between meditation and mindfulness?
It's a good question. It's not dumb at all.
I told you he was kind, eh? Told you he was kind.
So mindfulness is any time you're aware of the present moment. So you listening to a record and you're noticing the layers of that music, letting the sound waves hit your ears, and you're doing it in a non-judgmental way. You're just listening. Okay, there's no criticism, there's no judgment. That's considered mindfulness. And then, so meditation is any practice that, you know, in that moment, you go between, let's call it mindlessness and mindfulness. So you come back to an anchor. So that's a mindful moment. You go off and get lost in thought. That's your mindless moment. And so that keeps happening in little doses during your meditation as well. So there's a huge amount of overlap. And so to say, it's very hard to drag them apart. And even, you know, the scientific community and stuff can't agree on definitions for these things. But no, whenever you're fully absorbed in the present moment, you're being mindful. And then there's a million ways you can practice it. I feel it when I'm surfing. I feel it when I'm rock climbing. So, you know, but are they meditation? No, I don't. They have meditative elements in them, but I don't call them meditation, because I think meditation should be about withdrawal and, you know, really leaning into what's going on inside you. And so that's the way I approach it.
I did a little exercise, just a little exercise. A few weekends ago, I just walked up and down the beach. No phone for a bit. No tunes, and I found myself doing that with my hands, like touching the air, and it was a really interesting experience just to go, why am I doing that? But I just found myself doing that.
Yeah, and you felt peaceful doing it. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's almost like being very tactile.
Yeah.
And just I don't know, having a moment. It was really interesting.
Yeah. Just weird.
Well, no, because normally I do that all the time.
I know you do.
And so I did this with Shane, and he goes, so do you have a lot of uncertainty in your day? And I went, yes. I work in real estate, yes. Okay, right. So he's like, that's basically your constant. That's your anchor. I've done this for over 30 years.
Yeah, I've noticed it a lot.
But it was interesting just to, and I do it now walking to work sometimes. I just get quite tactile.
And you know, there's that great saying, coming back to your senses. The senses are present moment. You know, what you're feeling is actually going up to the brain, and you're absorbing that right here, right now. So, you know, they're beautiful moments of mindfulness, and the more of them we can bring ourselves to, the more we're away from the overthinking, the rumination, whatever else is going on.
What's rumination?
Rumination is, I can't define it, but I think of it as hardcore overthinking, usually about a more depressing subject.
Right, okay.
It's a good name for a band. I like it.
It's a good name for a podcast.
It is, actually.
So talk to me about how you can start the journey, or talk to us, and I guess form part of a habit. So how does someone go from brushing their teeth once a week to do it every day? How do we get into that habitual behavior? Because I think with meditation, you don't see the benefit straight away. It's a bit like saving $1 a week, right? You don't see that benefit straight away. How do you help your clients and things to just make the time? Because I think that's actually what we've all got to do. We're all busy. So how do we make the time to then go, I'm going to put 10 minutes into this, or 5 minutes, or on a walk to work, or on my commute?
Yeah, well, we talk a lot about why a person has decided to meditate, what's their reason for doing it, and how much they genuinely buy into that reason. So I usually have to dig quite a bit deeper.
Excuse me. No.
Yeah, because the usual reason is like, I want to be better at this or do this better. But if you dig a little deeper, you're usually finding out the root cause of that uncertainty, unhappiness, or that missing feeling they have in their life. And then when you can apply meditation in all the different forms I use through the course and the way they're arranged to feeling that gap or that missing piece is coming together, that's when they really, people have realization moments with it. It's hard to describe, but some people come back after week 4 and go, I finally got it. It happened to me. That's that I found my calm place, and now I go towards meditation not as a chore, but as something I need to do to manage my nervous system better, manage my mindset. What I'm trying to do with people is go, look, let's not change your world. You're telling me you're busy. Can we put small little breathing practices in your day? Because I don't want to say to someone, you have to meditate for half an hour in the morning, half an hour in the evening. Then they get pissed off because they've missed a few and they're like, I can't do this. But if you go for the little breathing practices, 3 minutes, 5 minutes after a Zoom call, just after you've parked the car in the garage, that's when I'm getting people to pepper their day with it. And then they seem to respond much better to, okay, I want to extend that 3 minutes to 10 minutes. And if you look at all the books on habits, they all have some common element in the title. It's atomic, tiny, make your bed. It's all simple things you need to do every day, like how we learn to brush our teeth. And so it's just reminding them that this isn't glamorous. It isn't big transformation. It's small little pieces, and you mightn't even notice it. But you've got to have a kind of cathedral thinking mindset. What are you going to build in 20, 30, 80 years, over your average lifespan? What do you want that cathedral to look like towards the end? And the mind is something we can really, get into a great place to give us a lot of a long, healthy life.
How is it, I guess, given, because you were very young, I think you were 20 when you were diagnosed with AS, weren't you?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then from what I got from your website, you then had a kind of bit of a challenge that you spoke about earlier on at 26. So we're talking young, right?
Yeah, yeah.
How has it benefited you headspace-wise, health-wise, life-wise? You said you rock climb, you go surfing. That's that doesn't strike me. For someone that can't sleep, mate.
I can't sleep when I go to bed.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
That strikes me as someone that's obviously feeling massive benefits, but that's purely not meditation alone. So what benefits has it done for you, father, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so having that illness?
No, in terms of obviously meditation, you've, as I said at the start, you came to it from a place of being in pain, not through kind of just wanting to relax and de-stress. But I'm curious to kind of understand the benefits that you've seen of it, because you got it as well. You started at such a young age. I don't know many other 20-year-olds that start meditating and doing yoga. But it was almost like a byproduct of your situation. But then look at you here.
Yeah, where I see it now is that it's just such an ingrained part of my life. So to manage things like fatherhood, buying a house, I went on a 10-day silent retreat, and they were the 2 questions I asked myself. Why am I scared to start a family? Why am I scared to buy a house? And they were resolved within like 4 or 5 hours of meditating. Then what came up for the next 8 days was absolute hell for me. It causes you to find the root cause of your suffering, and knowing that it has that power, and that you can delve deep inside with your anger, your resentment, your regret, all those elements, and cleanse yourself of them. It means that, like, I just know I'm a better person every day having done my practice. And when you look at people like your son and your partner, a lot of people focus on making, a physically safe environment, a house, food, all those elements. But I'm more thinking that has to be balanced with an emotionally safe environment. I can't be coming home stressed, agitated, and then seeing them for a few hours. I want to be bringing my best self home. And so that's why I'm meditating for those little blocks, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So, go on.
Sorry, this retreat you went on was what? What was it called?
Vipassana is a 10-day silent retreat up in the Blue Mountains.
So you don't talk for 10 days?
Yeah.
That's the silent bit, mate.
That's whack.
You do 10 hours meditation a day in 1 hour blocks, and then you eat in silence, and then you go to bed and you wake up at 4:30. Well, that's late for you. And then you start meditating again, and it's incredibly peaceful up there.
Oh, yeah.
And your food never tasted so good. Eating in silence. I encourage people to do it all the time. My God, flavors hit your brain like you've never tasted before. Even what they call temple food, like bland enough food, overwhelmingly delicious.
Wow. You reckon you could do 10 days without talking, mate?
I know I'm getting you for your birthday.
Mate, I'd love to see you not talk for 10 days.
Jesus. You mentioned that you went to hell and back.
Yeah.
Are you kind of open to sharing anything?
Yeah, so what I noticed was after about day 4 on that retreat, a lot of intense pain was coming up behind my right shoulder. Like if you can imagine, in behind the scapula there. And it got more aggressive. And I was like, I don't know if I can handle this anymore. It was like I'd been through a lot of pain. This was 150% bigger than anything I'd ever felt. And it was driving. And then there's a practice known as strong determination, where you're asked to sit still for an hour, not move at all. Like deny yourself that urge to move. And that came on, I think it was day 7 or 8. And I sat there, and it was the most overwhelming pain. And then I started sub-vocally screaming at myself, like shouting all this horrible stuff at myself. And after a few moments of that, it broke. I realized how much of an asshole I was being to myself, how my expectations, the way I was living my life, how angry I was about different things. And I just was like slapped in the face by that anger and went, I have to be kind to myself. I have to be compassionate. I have to try my best at everything. Let's get rid of this attitude towards myself. And that attitude, the compassionate one that came out of that, as soon as that happened, the pain started to dissolve. By the next day, it was completely gone. And then I've had this, strong desire to always talk to myself in a very supportive and encouraging way. And that has remained with me, and it's worked wonders for just how I approach things. Because, after that, I did start a family, I did buy a house, I did start my own business, and I've been able to encourage and support myself through all those big changes in a really sustainable way.
Fuck, the mind is a strong thing that we know nothing about.
Yeah, I hear you.
Mate, that's unbelievable that you could go through that and come out like that. And yeah, the whole 10 days of not talking thing, that's fucking, that's hard.
So just to summarize that, so your body was holding on to so much, it was causing you pain, physical pain.
Yeah.
Wow.
Burning.
And then only when, so effectively stress. So what we were talking about earlier on. So your body's holding on to so much stress, it's causing you so much pain. And there was a moment that it just all broke and you accepted.
Yeah.
And that was you being a bit kinder to yourself.
Wow. What a moment.
Yeah.
Huge moment.
That's fascinating. And like it's
Every time I
it's
see him, he
something
smiles.
that stays front of mind. Like, and yeah, you can see, like, it's not something that worries me or troubles me. It was euphoric.
Yeah,
It was what I needed.
I'm sort of jealous.
So you do want it for your birthday.
Yeah. As long as you come.
All right, you get it for me, I'll get it for you.
Yeah, all right, no, it's done.
Mate, what are some of the... so let's say I want to start tomorrow. Give me one thing I can do.
Start observing your breath. Just breath awareness, plain and simple. How you're breathing when you're working, how you're breathing when you're driving, just watching, because the breath is really strongly linked to our thoughts, our feelings and emotions. It changes really fast when we change those elements. And so if you start noticing that you're constantly shallow breathing, you're holding your breath, like we mentioned, you know your nervous system is struggling with the load on it. You have to move back to those calming belly breaths, slowing everything down, nasal breathing, the way we were born to breathe. And when you start doing that, the tension tends to build less. And if you can have more of that time, I used to go, when I was working, I'd go in and I'd have to read these big defense documents, and they were super boring, but I needed to concentrate on them. And I just have my hand on my belly. I'd be encouraging this slow belly breathing and a soft focus. And, you know, I'd get through those without making many mistakes. And so it's elements like that. And, you know, noticing as well how tension is around your body. You know, if your shoulders are up because of an email, can you step back from that email, relax your shoulders so you don't send something bitchy back to someone or too sassy, you know? So you just have these little... Everything is about just pausing between that initial reaction and then deciding, okay, how do I actually want to respond to this? Yeah.
I had one of those moments today, actually.
Is that when you didn't pick up the phone to me?
No, security guard messaged or emailed us saying, and he sent us 6 pictures and goes, there's a noise coming from the building at night. Can one of you guys tell me what it was or what it is? And I wrote back to him, I looked at all 6 pictures and I didn't hear anything. But then I deleted it. I was like, no, don't fucking send that, you idiot. What's wrong with you?
That's actually quite funny.
Yeah.
You might not have seen it. I thought it was brilliant.
Shane, that was phenomenal.
Sweet, guys.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. You've certainly changed my mind in terms of prioritising meditation in my world. If people want to reach out, get to know you a bit more, learn a bit more, look at your course, I guess even have a conversation, how do people get hold of you?
Yeah, trysofter.life is the website. And look, I love talking about this stuff, so I'm happy. 0422 143.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
Okay, we'll cut that out.
We'll cut that out. But I know that you work with some big corporates all over Australia
Yeah.
as well. You also work with people like me too. So I know that you're not fussy. It's just about helping people, which is incredibly useful. So thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate your time.
Yeah, we'll put the links in the description. Thanks, I got a lot out of that as well, and you'll definitely be hearing from me, mate.
Brilliant.
I don't think he wants to hear from you.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's not a magician.
Shane's sleep school.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.